where Consulate General of India in Toronto has said that due to continued inability that has been conveyed by the security agencies in order to provide security against heightened threats, and said that the consulate had to cancel some consular camps, and most of this was was not at worship places. Now I'm going to give you, of course, we have that statement that has been issued, and I'm going to flash it right on our screens and quickly read it out. This is, of course, the Consulate General of India in Toronto. They've said that due to continued inability conveyed by security agencies to provide minimum security against heightened threats, consulates has had to cancel some more consular camps. Most of them were not at places of worship, including one at the police facility. Consulate is fully sensitive to the difficulties faced by close to 4,000 elderly members of the diaspora in the Greater Toronto area, both Indian and Canadian nationals who have been deprived of an essential consular service. Now, this, of course, is happening after a spate of attacks that have taken place in Canada, Khalistanis orchestrating violence. We're, of course, talking about the consulate. There was, of course, violence that was reported across Canada, in Surrey, in Brampton. Brampton, of course, we remember what happened. There were Hindu devotees who were beaten up. There were women and children who were also, in fact, not spared. Now we see, of course, this statement that has been issued by the Consulate General of India, making it clear that due to continued inability conveyed by security agencies to provide minimum security against heightened threats, Consulate has now cancelled some more consular camps. My colleague Daryl is with us on the broadcast, and he's going to take you through the details. Daryl, give our viewers the details that are coming in from Canada at this point of time, especially, give us the context behind these statements that are now being issued by the Consulate General of India in Toronto.
Yeah, Safari, there's a statement which has been now released by the Consulate General of India in Toronto that due to the continued inability conveyed by the security agencies to provide minimum security against heightened threats, Consulate has had to cancel some more consular camps. Most of them were not at any of places of worship, including one at a police facility. Consulate is fully sensitive to the difficulties faced by close to 4,000 elderly members of the diaspora in the Greater Toronto area, both Indian and Canadian nationals, who have been deprived of an essential consular service. We saw that the issue which is going on in Canada is been rising and day by day, and now the Consulate General of India in Toronto has released this statement. Sorry.
Daryl, also give us the context. Of course, this statement has been issued, but what is the context behind it? Give us, give our viewers a better understanding on what it is that's happened in Canada in the past 1 week. Let's also, that in itself is very shocking.
Yes, you all know the recent tensions have arisen between Canada and India, where Canada has said that the killing of the signature, the Khalistani, was planned by the Indian Democrats in the US, Canada, and it is alleged that the Indian Democrats had planned this conspiracy. And after this, now the tensions have arisen between both the counterparts, and now this statement has come up in Toronto by the Consulate General, and now we'll have to see further what talks will take place on this issue.
Absolutely. In fact, joining us at this point of time, and Daryl, stay on with us, joining us at this point of time is Mr. Surinder Singh Lali, international affairs expert. So thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX. Now, Justin Trudeau, when the Brampton attack took place, he did condemn the violence that was orchestrated by these Khalistani goons, but of course nothing has happened since, and as a result these statements are flashing on our screens. The statement that has been mentioned by the Consulate General of India, where they've conveyed that there is a lack of security, and as a result they're having to cancel some more consular camps. So how do you view the developments that are taking place?
Thank you, Savri. First of all, the developments are not only unfortunate, but with each passing day, Canada reveals itself naked in terms of how beholden they are to the K lobby. And you just mentioned about Justin Trudeau's, whatever mildly he did mention the K word, but even in that statement, he further goes out and talks about the Honorable Prime Minister of India. So as far as I'm concerned, the gentleman has kind of lost his marbles. He does not even know, talking about the key elements, and then he's saying all Hindus don't follow BJP. I mean, he's making these statements which have absolutely no meaning. It's very unfortunate, and now it's even getting more unfortunate that eventually it is the Indian diaspora which will suffer, and not to mention, even the last time when there was a temple attack, 65% of the individuals seeking consular service and pension, their pension renewals were Sikhs. So it's so fortunate that this entire thing has become one theater of the absurd where, it's the K elements who supposedly call themselves Sikhs and then are harming not only the interest of our two, relations between two countries, but further harming not just our Hindu brothers, but even the Sikhs. So this, to me, has become like one big Japanese kabuki circus where Justin Trudeau is digging more deeper. When you're in a hole, you stop digging because you go more deeper. And especially when they will ask, the Peel Police or the Canadian Mountain Police will ask for $100,000 to give protection, which they did the last time. I mean, what a tamasha they're making. We are taxpayers, and it's not that it's some sort of a barat going through the hinterlands of Maoist area that the police will charge you money to give protection. It's the moral right, it's the civil right for every Hindu, Sikh or every Indian to seek protection purely because it is all under the parentheses of the law. So you understand, the more Canada, behaves in a certain manner, the more they are getting naked and showing to the world how this is probably the next, Pakistan, the way it's heading.
Right, so absolutely. I'd also like to understand from you, the second portion in the statement that has been issued says that the consulate is fully sensitive to the difficulties faced by close to 4,000 elderly members of the diaspora in the Great Toronto area, both Indians and Canadian nationals. Who owes them an apology? There was a visual that came from Canada where you could see Khalistanis on horses just marching across Canada. Who owes them an apology right now? Especially, let's talk about these 4,000 elderly members. Who's going to help them?
It's so shameful that it's the elderly at that age when they ought to be retiring and enjoying life because, it's not easy going to those countries and working hard, and Canada has such extreme, weather conditions. So the time when they ought to be enjoying time with their, grandchildren and dealing with the sort of bodily diseases that one does get with age. I mean, instead of that, they are now getting, thrown from, between the rock and the hard place. But, I have one point to make on this. I think there was a recent video in New Zealand where the New Zealander he had a blowhorn in his hand, and he said that, these elements need to go back. These yellow, disgusting flags need to go back. So I think now the Canadians need to rise up. The Canadian civil society, the Canadian Hindus and Sikhs need to rise up and protest on the lines of very civilized protest against the Trudeau and these key elements, because please understand, these key elements are not much in number. Obviously, what makes noise tends to get more attention. But there is the large diaspora. I mean, there are 700 to 800,000 Sikhs and again in equal number Hindus. They are a lot more than these folks state. One more thing, if you see how Justin Trudeau has taken Canada into a hole, he has issues with China. I mean, there are his own member parliaments who are on Chinese payroll. He has issues with India, and Donald Trump isn't quite a big fan of him. So look where he's taken his country to. I mean, if these three countries, one, India, the most emerging economy, China, the biggest economy, and America, they are big daddy. So if we have messed up relationship with these three countries out of the 95 recognized countries in the world, I mean, I feel bad, not just for the Hindus and the Sikhs and the Indians, but even for the average white, black, brown, Chinese, Canadian,
right,
who's actually going to suffer because of first the Trudeau Senior, because of which we lost Ganesh, and now the Trudeau Junior is probably living, the legacy of making an idiot out of himself and demolishing a relationship between two English-speaking Commonwealth, trading partners and democracy.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your perspectives with us. Meanwhile, Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, joins us on the broadcast. So thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX. Every day there is something bizarre that's reported from Canada. You know, whether it's the horseback rides that are taking place in Canada orchestrated by Khalistanis, or it's the attacks, or the fact that Khalistanis in fact told Canadians to only move out of Canada. Now, this statement that's been issued by the Consulate General of India, what does it reflect?
Well, I think the Indians are also going to subtly retaliate by shutting down on Canadian interaction. It cannot be a one-way street all the way. But the desperation of the Trudeau regime seems to be increasing because of a lack of traction. Whatever they try doesn't seem to go very far. And as a consequence, they try something else and then something else. He's got a budget to clear in February 2025. His popularity is down. Today's news says the people in Canada are cutting down, the adults are cutting down 25% of their eating bill in order to feed their children. So they are in dire straits in Canada where they are unable to eat. Can you imagine this in a G7 country next to America, one of the, so-called developed nations? They are now in trouble overeating, just like Britain was, just as some parts of America and some people in America are. So this is a beginning of the times. I don't think Trudeau will last, and until he is there, he is going to try and distract the public by doing all this. India is a handy target. It doesn't particularly wish to retaliate and wants to wait it out until Trudeau and the Liberal Party is voted out of office.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.